Hi, it's KCCK's Culture Crawl. I'm Dennis Green, and my guests today are from the upcoming Riverside Theater production of The Mountaintop. Adam Knight is back with us. Hi, Adam. Nice to see you.
Hi, good to see you, Dennis.
And it's a real pleasure to have Curtis Jackson back in studio.
Pleasure to be here.
It's
Thank
been,
you.
I think it might have been pre-pandemic even
It was right before,
since you were here last. But you have been primarily an actor when you visited us in Iowa City, but you've directed before, but you're directing this show.
Yes, yeah. Back in 2019 is when I started rehearsing for The Agitators, and the show happened in 2020, early 2020, and then the pandemic happened. I came back for The Niceties to direct that just a few years ago, which is still a labor of love on my part. Thank you. I love that play, Adam, for bringing me back. And now I'm back again to direct The Mountaintop by Katori Hall.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a Pulitzer. The author is Pulitzer Prize winning, correct?
Yes.
And all right, Adam, we'll start with you. So just give us the capsule back of the script synopsis of the play.
Well, this is a play that's been on our radar for a long time. It was on Broadway about 15 years ago, and it imagines, in a kind of magical realism sort of way, the final night on Earth of Martin Luther King Jr. At the Lorraine Motel. And while we were working on The Agitators, I visited the Lorraine Motel. There's a civil rights museum there in Memphis, and the power of that space and that room is so palpable. And I think this play really captures that. It imagines what that last night was like for Martin Luther King as he contemplates the legacy of his past, but also what he's going to mean for the future of America.
And it is a reimagining, because none of us imagine what our, think about during our lives, what our mark on history is going to be. And Curtis, you said this is a two-person show?
This is a two-person play, yes, a two-hander, although it is somewhat debatable by some to, I don't know, see if there are more characters in this play than not. It kind of lends to the mystery of what's happening in this play.
One of the mysteries about this show is we don't know how many people are in it.
I do know we have two physical actors. We have two actors who are alive. We have Tiara Plowden, who plays Kamei, and we have Monte Howell, who plays Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. These actors have worked with Riverside before. This is my first time working with them. I believe it's their first time working together, and I am so in love with the chemistry and with the things that they bring to the table to help tell this story. Because again, we might have a little bit more going on in this play, mystery-wise, than first perceived. Because, like you said, we don't know what actually happened to Martin Luther King the night before he was assassinated when he's alone in his motel room.
Talk about, I think I'm thinking about The Agitators that you performed in, and you were Frederick Douglass.
Yeah. That's when I started growing the hair.
Right. And, someone whose face is very familiar to anybody who studied history, but just his face, because they didn't have films or TV or anything. Martin Luther King, complete opposite end of the spectrum. We know his face. We've seen him speak. We've seen his, the motions that he made when he speak. How do you coach an actor through that so that they're in, getting the spirit of the character, but not doing an impression?
Yeah. It was something that was brought up by Monte upon our first meet. When we first met each other, he was inquiring about what do we do with, the voice, what do we do with the gestures? It was all related to Martin in a public persona, I guess, headspace for Monte and for myself. So we've talked out of that because he's not on camera. He's not in the presence of anyone else other than his opposite, who's Kamei. She plays a maid who comes to deliver him coffee. So
in other words, he's not being Martin Luther King.
No. And so then it's up for grabs. It's like, well, again, with Frederick Douglass, we didn't even have audio for Frederick Douglass. You know what I mean? To kind of reference, trying to figure out who Martin is and what he does in the motel room on the night before he's assassinated with another person, with Kamei, the maid, is not documented. It's not. It didn't really happen. We're imagining or reimagining for ourselves what that is. And you have to kind of remember that there's no camera in his face. There's no. Dr. King was very smart in knowing when he was going to be public, when he was going to be broadcast around the country or quoted in a newspaper even. We don't have that. We don't have so much of that in this place. So for me, and what I spoke with Monte, is really diving into the writing of the play. The lines suggest certain things in terms of maybe not so grammatically correct as you would be on camera. The stage direction, we have to just use this script to really figure out what it's like to be, I guess, human in a motel room alone.
What do we learn about Martin Luther King because of this intimate look at him that we are not used to seeing?
We learned some things that were known. We learned that he might have been a little bit more paranoid about the phone being bugged by the FBI,
with justification.
Yeah. We learn about a little more about the infighting within the civil rights groups. When it was appropriate to use Martin in this part of the country as opposed to using Malcolm in this part of the country. We learn a little bit about his attachment to, of course, his family, Corey, and his daughter, Bernice. And we also learn that he was pretty aware of possibly dying someday by assassination sometime soon. He was very paranoid about being able to finish the work before he was killed. I don't think he thought he was going to live very long, and I don't think he thought he was going to die a natural death.
Is there anything that surprised you about the script, or as the show has come together, that is different than what you pictured it when maybe on first reading?
The number one thing that's still happening today for myself and probably everybody else is the fact that we have to get through Martin. We have to figure out what we know most about before we even deal with the other person in the room. And I'm embarrassed and shameful in thinking in that way, because the other person in the room, Kamei, the maid, she arrives at the beginning of the play. She's also in this play. And it's always easy for everyone, including myself, to just attach ourselves to what's going on with Martin. What's going to happen in this play with Martin? What is Martin thinking about this and that? And then you have to remind yourself that Kamei is here as well. So when you start thinking in the realm of maybe this play isn't all about Martin, maybe this play isn't about Martin as much as we thought, it becomes very freeing and opening to figure out this other person in the room.
And I think the playwright Katori Hall, a black woman, leads us and guides us in that way, and says this movement was about more than one person, even though this one person changed the course of history.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also there's so much material on Martin. Again, it's easier to research him, to kind of define the voice and the gestures with him. And then we find that there's not so much research about this type of woman in 1968, Black American. And then you start to question, like, well, why wasn't this documented? Or where is this? Is it really just not there? Do we have to invent this? We have to look to, the Black women community of that time, usually through their ancestors, to figure out where did they fit in within the movement. Mm-hmm. Aren't their opinions valid? Why are they often ignored? A lot of things that we're still dealing with today.
And in a very real way, those are the people who carried on the movement after Martin Luther was killed. Martin Luther King was killed.
The baton passes on.
The baton passes on. It does, yeah.
I should mention that we also learned that Martin's very human. We learned that he has stinky feet. The playwright, I think, has a lot of fun with showing Martin the man. And we learned that he's a flawed individual, which, if you've read a biography, you know. Mm-hmm. But it's wonderful to see the human on stage.
Yeah. Yeah, and the more you dive into that, the less it becomes, just like with Frederick Douglass, the less it becomes about the hair for Frederick, the less it becomes about the voice for Martin or the grand gestures. He is not delivering a speech for the duration of this play. But don't get me wrong, he still got it. He can still do it. He will. He will when he wants to, and it is there.
He will talk to you. The play is The Mountaintop, opening this week.
Yeah, opening February 23rd and running through March 10.
So 3 full weekends.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Are you doing any talkbacks or anything
We will.
of that nature?
This Sunday, we'll have a talk back with the cast and Curtis, moderated by me. So we always encourage audience members to come to that talk back. It'll start around 3:30 on Sunday. Or if you don't have a ticket for that day, you can come anyway to the talk back. It's free and open to the public, and a great way to kind of deepen your relationship not only with the play, but also about the creative process that led to this. And I will say that this process and this product is something that's never been seen on Riverside stage. I love the designs that are happening. We have an amazing team, and I think people are really going to be wowed.
The play is The Mountaintop, opening this weekend at Riverside Theater. If people want tickets, they can visit your website, which is?
riversidetheater.org, and it's Theater RE.
Right. And is the website a good place to kind of keep in touch with things that are happening? Are you active on Facebook? Where else? Where can people, really get the current events at Riverside?
We're on all the socials. You can find us on Facebook and Insta. And our website has a lot of information, not only about the current shows, but also classes and upcoming events.
All right. Well, thanks so much for being here, Adam. Always great to see you. Curtis, great to see you. Thanks for being back in our neck of the woods, and I hope you come back again soon.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
You can hear the Culture Crawl live on the radio many weekdays at 10:30, or download the podcast. Watch or listen on your own schedule at kcck.org/culture, or however you get your podcasts. Our video producer is Lydia Kilgore. I'm Dennis Green. I'll talk to you later.